Hi, welcome to the Zaytrics podcast. So, my name is Dr. Muhammad Ali Masood. So, basically, I've done my PhD in NLP. So, I've done various work in different research and industry related activities. I have worked in different industries as well. So, basically, I'm founder of Zaytrics. 4 years back, I created Zaytrics, whereby our vision is to create cutting edge innovation and innovative solution in AI and blockchain space. So today we are going to talk more into the research paradigm whereby I invited Dr. Faheem Ullah, who is basically who has done his PhD in cyber security as well as he's doing work in big data. So he's very innovative mind where he has developed many different solutions, innovative solutions for his research and related activities. So today we are going to more talk about how we can use AI tools in research paradigm to make the research activities much more efficient than it is before. And we are also going to talk about how we can leverage those AI research into our industry as well. So welcome Dr. Fahim to our Zaytrics podcast. So, can you briefly explain what you done, what are you doing currently, and have a brief introduction and tell our guest what you do for living?
Hello, Dr. Ali. Firstly, thank you for inviting me to the podcast. And about myself, I'm Faheem. I'm an assistant professor in the School of Computer Science at the University of Adelaide, Australia. And along with that, I am also the big data lead in the Center for Research on Engineering Software Technologies. Prior to that, I was a postdoc in the same school, and before that, I did PhD also from the same school.
Yeah, that sound very interesting. You are working in very cutting edge areas. So today, as you we both know that we are going to talk about research and how to use AI tools in it. So if I would ask you, just for the audience in a layman term, what do you think? What is AI first, and why is it so hyped these days? So what is your opinion on it?
So, in my understanding, AI or artificial intelligence, it's essentially a learning process from the data. The better the data you have, the better you learn, and then that
Mm,
learning is applied in different domains. So in my understanding, it's a very simple process of learning as a human. If you look at it, when we
mm,
are in our childhood, we don't know much because we have not seen
yeah,
much or we have not experienced much.
yeah,
But as we grow older, we learn more, and then
yeah,
our sort of decision making process, it improves.
yeah,
The same is the way AI works. It learns
yeah,
from the data. The more the data, the better, the more rich data, the better it learns and the
yeah.
better decisions it can make.
Yeah, I also used to give these examples to my clients always that AI is basically your kid. So when it is born, at that instance, you have no data or it's just a blank paper. And with the books, you're training more data into it, and that kid is starting to learn maybe maths as well as physics as well as English and all those things. So basically, AI is basically just a thing in which you just put a data and it tries to learn pattern out of it. And this is what we human being do. When we are kid, we were told that two is like this, so something with a circle and then there is a straight line at the bottom. It We learned that pattern and we started recognizing it. So basically what I feel is basically true that you have elaborated in a much
Absolutely.
better. Yeah,
And just to aid, Dr. Ali, that the second part of your question about that, why is there so much hype about AI? So
yeah,
I think there are multiple reasons for it. The first one being that our reliance on digital technologies, it has
mm,
increased exponentially.
yeah,
On average, every human being has 2 to 3 devices uh, sort of
yeah,
using it or connected to the human.
mm,
So that's why we are creating a lot of data. And when we are creating a lot of data, then it means that the AI which we are talking about, it has more resource to learn from. And that is why it is being incorporated in many different sectors of our life these days. And more to that, there are also I would say the grounds for it or the environment for it to work. Like, for example, years ago, we did not have that much computational capacity, what we have now. So we have data, we have the computational capacity, and we also have the demand to say so, because more and more we are moving towards automation. Doesn't matter what sector it is, almost everywhere. The goal is to automate as much as we can.
Yeah, and it increases the efficiency, as well as in a business it reduces the cost. So I can give many examples in that way, in that particular area. But let's go towards the next topic, then we'll discuss that. So I would like to ask you about research. So when we are talking about research, I when I did my PhD at the time, there were limited kind of tools available. Now there are a lot of tools available that can help you in AI. So can you elaborate on that research aspect, where we can leverage certain AI tools to build up, write our literature review, maybe do the research gap analysis if it is possible. And there are many other tools that can help you with the reference, as well as many other tools. So what do you think about that particular aspect?
Yeah, absolutely. So to sort of connect it to the previous point, similar to many other fields, like, for example, the field in which I do my core research about cybersecurity. So over there is a lot of incorporation of AI. Then we also see in many other sectors like transportation, healthcare, and so on. There is the kind of a lot of hype of AI.
Yes.
So in the same way, in the field of education, research, or academia, there is also I would say, a higher level of realization that whichever things can be automated, they should be automated. So when we talk about the use of AI in research, there are several different areas in which AI can help, and it is, for that matter, helping these days. If we start with, for example, literature review, so of course it helps us to identify the right kind of papers. It helps us to understand the papers in a better way. You don't have to go through all the paper bit by bit. You can even ask questions, and it can help to dig out the relevant information from the paper for you. That is one area. Of course, then in writing, it helps us a lot. There are tools which can help you to smoothen your writing, which can help you to use better sort of terminologies in your writing. And then if we go in terms of the research presentations, there are many different tools which can help us. Nowadays, if you provide some level of text, there are tools which can convert that text into presentation for you. And then there are tools which are used to be more productive. Like, for example, they can help us in scheduling, in maintaining our emails, and also helps us in kind of scheduling our meetings, recording the meetings in terms of taking meeting minutes and so on. So obviously there are so many different areas within the field of research where AI tools are used. I mean, if you want me, I can name the tools, but then there are too many. So
just one question that came into my mind when you were discussing this. So you said that there are summarization tools. So basically, you can summarize the whole paper, and just based on the summary, you can judge whether whether the research paper is relevant to you or not. So my point is this something that a new researcher would opt to do at the very instance, or should he be doing this thing later on? Because if you do it in the early stage, then it would be a problem, because you are not grasping all the aspect of a paper. You are just living up to a certain summary, which may not be helpful for you to have a broader vision of what is going on. So what is your take on it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely a very good point.
Mm,
When I'm talking about the use of AI in research, we have to take it with a pinch of salt. It doesn't have to be blind.
mm,
For someone as a new researcher, I would not recommend that go and just kind of use a tool to read a paper for you.
yeah.
In my view, understanding or developing the skill how to read a paper and how to take information, that is equally important.
Mm,
So my view is that it leads down to the supervisors or the professors, that how they train their students, because uh, I believe that in, let's say, in the first 6 months, uh,
mm,
I think it would be more important for the student to really, really go and do deep down analysis of the papers instead of skimming through the paper.
yes.
And as a supervisor, you can easily assess that whether the student has gone to the depth, or the student has used, let's say, some tool to
Mm-hmm.
just skim or extract particular information.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same, like, for example, the other day I was discussing with someone, and there was an example given that when calculator was built, its purpose is not that we stop learning how to do simple math, like, for example, addition, multiplication, and so on. We still teach the kids how to multiply, how to do the division, and so on. The tool is there, but it doesn't mean that we forget, or we don't go and learn the basics.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you are a researcher, I believe that initially research is more like we used to give an example that there is a big forest and there is a pond somewhere. You have to find that pond. So basically, for that reason, you have to broaden your study. So you have to read a lot initially because you have to select a certain area research gap. For a research gap, if you skim through things, then it would be very, very, very difficult for you to actually come up with a research gap. That's I totally agree on this point. So with the same thing in mind, so what do you think? Obviously, there are a lot of tools. So is there any caution? Like we discussed, one of the caution is don't summarize initially. So are there any other cautions that our researchers should need to do initially when he's doing his research? Maybe at the later stage he can do that, but initially, what things that he should avoid initially when we are
I
talking
think that's
about
a good
AI
question, and
yeah,
and
yeah.
and, and there isn't one thing. There are so many different things. The use of AI, not just in the field of research or education, in many other fields, as I mentioned, that uh, blindly trusting it or blindly using it, that could be very counterproductive.
Yeah.
Um, for example, a very simple example that I come across many times is that when you are using some of these automated tools, it can generate fake references for you,
Hmm.
and there is no such existence of those particular references. So there always needs to be a double check.
Hmm.
As far as the thing is concerned, that whether for early career researchers and for more seasoned researchers, in my understanding, when we start research, particularly in PhD, during the time of PhD, the whole purpose is to learn how to do research.
Yes.
Uh, mm, I don't think anybody expects a very significant breakthrough, but the
Hmm.
whole exercise of PhD is to learn how we can become independent researchers. And for that, we definitely need to put the required effort. If we are solely relying on these tools, that would diminish or belittle the curve of learning.
Yeah.
Moreover, there are, of course, so many different strings that are attached with the use of AI. For example, uh, whether it hits the creativity or not, whether
Hmm.
it's ethical or not, and particularly if someone has used these tools and they have not clearly mentioned it, then that becomes an issue. And I believe that many publishers in journals or even conferences, they have already mentioned the policies around the use of these tools, that whether they are allowed or they're not allowed, and if they're allowed, to what extent they're allowed, and how they need to be attributed towards. And also just to, because we have seen recently, we have seen a very huge sort of hype in the use of, about the use of these AI tools. So it is kind of, developing. We are in the stage of standardizing things, that what needs to be done, what doesn't needs to be done. And I think certainly in future these things would be sort of there would be a balance would be struck, that how to sort of
Yeah.
work in the in this era of AI.
Okay, so basically, as you mentioned about the ethical aspect, so do you know, I mean, what are the ethical aspect that we should talk about when we talk about AI tools? Because as you mentioned, one of the example, there is another example which my professor always tend to say no to that particular example. People used to write this, the whole literature review and go to Grammarly and check the all the things, but my professor used to say no, check it yourself, I bought it yourself, because Grammarly at some instance it just checks whether the word is correct, but it may not uh, adhere to what you're saying in that particular sentence. So that is the reason why you have to eyeball it, I mean read it and then analyze it. So in terms of ethical aspect, what do you think we should do when we are talking, or when we're using AI tools?
Yeah, so Dr. Ali, I'll come to this part later, but the first point you mentioned, I'll like to comment on that. I think of course, these AI tools, they are very beneficial and at times they work pretty good. However, in my understanding, we are not at the stage to rely on them, like, even up to 50%.
Yeah.
Yes, we may in 20, 30 years, I don't know exactly, we might reach to that level that they are of that significant use. At the moment, like for example, you mentioned about this tool Grammarly. I mean, it's good, but it certainly cannot match the level of a human intelligence.
Yes.
The way a human, like a supervisor, can go through the manuscript and make
Yeah.
the changes or suggest the changes. I don't think
Yeah.
Grammarly is even near to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can to very little extent, like for example, fixing the use of articles, or if
Yeah.
there are some typos, those kind of things it can fix, but
Yes.
it cannot certainly understand the context. It
Yes.
cannot understand the tone of
Mm.
writing. Those sorts of things that are still in the hands of human.
Yeah.
We may reach there, but at least at the moment, I don't see we are there, that these tools are matching the level of intelligence a human have. Now, the second part you mentioned about the ethical angles of AI. So, of course, it's a very diverse field in itself. Many people are doing research in this area. But to give an example, the way, because AI is essentially, there is no sort of feelings or no emotions attached to it. So it does work based on the algorithm and the data that the algorithm has. Now, for example, if we look at some of the social media applications now, they have this feature, like after a year they would bring you the memories and then they would show you what happened last year. Now imagine if somebody has someone, a loved one who passed away, and then those sorts of memories are brought to the person. Now that makes us upset, right?
Yes.
But the machine doesn't, the algorithm doesn't understand that.
Yes.
So those are the limitations, or those are the ethical concerns surrounding the use of AI. Then further, if we look the credit, like for example, if we look at in the academic world now, if there are two students, one student has done everything himself or herself, and another student has taken help from some AI tools. Now, how do we, if we fail to make the distinction and we mark them equally, now that means that one of the student is at a certain disadvantage. So these sorts of concerns in the education sector, they are evolving. I see many institutes, they are sort of lifting up their game to make such kind of distinctions and make sure that the students, or anyone for that matter, is
Yeah.
acknowledged to the level they put effort in.
So, as you mentioned, so this copy pasting or plagiarism you're talking about. So, the question that came into my mind is related to ChatGPT. Since ChatGPT is right now at the very boom these days, so a lot of student which I see that has worked with us as well, with me as well, and with other of my fellows. So they now use ChatGPT for a lot of things. I mean, not only the coding aspect of it, also for the literature review, maybe related to some writing aspect. So what do you think? How, I mean, does ChatGPT help in that aspect? Number one. Number two, whether ChatGPT is, do you think, ethical in that aspect, using ChatGPT knowledge in that aspect? What do you think about it?
Yeah, so again, this is a very interesting question. I think um, I'll come to the main point later. But if you look at the human history, there has always been evolution in some sorts. Like there was industrial times when the industry came in. It doesn't um, sort of. I believe that human beings have the capability that they um lift themselves up and then they adapt accordingly. In my view is that the same would happen with AI. Now, coming back to the point that what is happening in the education sector, that if some particular student is using ChatGPT or any AI tool, whether it's ethical and what impact it has, what I see is that many universities, they are working on this thing and they are lifting up sort of
Hmm.
to how to deal with this challenge. Just
Yes.
to give you an example, in the field of computer sciences, what we do is that um, there are many different kind of assignments or activities that we can design, which even with the help of ChatGPT, the students won't be able to do that. That is one part of it. The other part of it is that my view of ChatGPT is that it is good, but it is good for some generic sort of content creation. Like for example, if a student is being given an assignment to write an essay on a morning walk,
Hmm.
ChatGPT can write very excellent essay.
Yes.
But if it's something more deeper and more concrete, ChatGPT is not a good tool for that. Now, the
Mm.
third point is that as an educator or as a teacher, at least in my understanding or the experience that I have little bit, at least from the reading, I can clearly understand whether it's written by a student or whether it's a text that is generated by some automated AI tool.
Yeah.
So it is a challenge. It has posed certain challenges in the
Mhm.
education sector, but I think we'll cope up, and it will not have a very big hit on the learning curve of the students.
Yeah, also there are some models that are being created that can detect now ChatGPT text. So basically not now, maybe somewhere along the line, maybe next year or by the end of next year, we would get some tools whereby it could check plagiarism from ChatGPT. So basically, right now, student, yes, they have a leverage where they can use ChatGPT to come up with it, and they can write some story, and then they can mold it. But as you have mentioned, I have also the same level of experience. So with the text writing skills, generally a teacher always know about the writing skills of their students. So if the writing is very kind of outlier, so everybody would know that this is a copy paste kind of a thing. So yeah, this is somewhere it it would be addressed, but not right now. Maybe in the later part of it, we could, I mean, AI research community, a lot of people are working on it, and maybe they could find a solution for it. So my question regarding this aspect, I would say there is one thing with the use of AI tools, as you mentioned, one is ChatGPT, but there are many other AI tools. Does it does it has any impact on the creativity? because when we were doing research, I mean, maybe although we are not that old, but our research at that moment, there were not many AI tools. So we used to do the hard way, but that hard way had a lot of aspect associated with it. Like, for example, when we used to do the research, we used to keep on talking with other people as well, so that we might uh, find a new innovative solution to solve our problem. Maybe that problem may not be useful for, I mean, that solution may not be useful for them, but we might use that solution in our research as well as. So these days, because a lot of people are on the computer talking using chat gpt, so does it hinder the creativity aspect of the researchers as well as the developer, if you see so?
I don't think so. And before coming to the main point, I think that what is happening, it's more of an opportunity than a threat.
Hmm.
Over the years, as I mentioned, that there has been these developments, and we adopted accordingly. And I
Hmm.
believe that we would adopt to this AI boom as well. And I mean, it sort of makes our work easy. Now, the point that you are mentioning about creativity, I think creativity is a very niche kind of skill,
Hmm.
and AI tools, they are far behind as compared to the creativity that a human mind
Hmm.
can make. Um, for example, if you go and if you ask these tools like ChatGPT to give you 5 research questions in a particular area, let's suppose machine learning for vulnerability prediction,
Hmm.
it would give you very generic kind of, it would generate an output, but
Okay.
that would be so generic that I believe in the best case, it can give you some food for thought, but it will never help you to give you a concrete question, a
Yeah.
concrete research question. Um, it may help the students,
Hmm.
but I don't think that it can reach, or at least at the moment, it is not to that level that um, uh, it can do like cutting edge research for you.
Yeah, yeah. Actually,
So
yeah, you're right. Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
um, creativity, I think these tools would help us to create better. It's not gonna hinder the process of creativity.
Hmm.
So all I see is more positivity,
Hmm.
optimism, rather than considering this such developments as a threat.
Yeah. So basically, as we talked more into the research aspect, so if we go to the another dimension of research, which is industry. So what do you think, if we talk about AI, so how the industry would adopt to research, and why? I see a lot of, I've been to many university in different regions of the world. So I've seen that there is always a gap between academia and industries, although every university is trying to reduce this gap. So what do you think? How would the industry adapt to the research that is being conducted in various department of a university, and how would they make more efficient models or maybe more efficient solutions out of it?
Yes, I think there are two parts to the question. The first one about the gap between industry and academia.
Hmm.
I totally agree that it is there, and there are initiatives in multiple countries where they're trying to reduce this gap. Uh, how to do it, or if there is a quick fix, I don't know.
Hmm.
Certainly, there could be more engagement, and probably um, the
Yeah.
results or the
Yeah.
findings that we have in the academic sector, that should be somehow taken and maybe presented to the industry, and perhaps that way they can be more aware and they can see the usefulness. The other way is like if researchers, they themselves have the resources to commercialize their own products based on
Yeah.
the research that they do, which I believe that in some countries, particularly in US, that is
Hmm.
a pattern being followed. Those are some of the ways that can reduce the gap between academia and industry. And I firmly believe that that gap should be reduced, because the research that we do, it should be translated, or it should have some direct impact.
Okay. So okay. So I would like to add some things on this part. Actually, the industry that we are talking about, industry generally wants the solution real quick. So the academia, on the other hand, is a little bit on the slower side of it. So we have been working in this area. So we do R&D as well as we develop solutions. So we had a lot of, solutions that we develop in which there was certain kind of things that were not available in the research community. So, uh, i- if we follow the academia style, although we went to the academia, we failed on that aspect, but we had to do it ourselves because academia is you can say a little bit, they start slow. They have a whole process. That process has to be followed. They had to do literature survey. In our case, we can do it without literature survey. We can do it later on. We can get the result first and then start working on it. So what we do generally, I see that there is one solution that can also help in academia, because academia is more towards publishing the paper. So if they mold it a little bit in terms of, say, for example, first get the result, then publish the paper, that model would actually increase the output, because industry wants the output fast. Like I would give many solution, many clients would come to me and they would say that they would say, they would come up with a very unique proposition and they would want it to be done in 1 month. Then I would ask them, this is not black magic, I cannot get it done in a month. So these kind of things does happen. So when it comes to, industry, I would always say that whenever there is a cutting edge thing, you need to give time. Okay, but there is always some aspect of R&D that needs to be done, but that R&D can be done in a way where we can do limited literature survey. We don't try to find the gap first. We try to solve the problem first and then come on to the gap. Because if you solve the problem, automatically the gap would exist. Because just to give you an idea, we develop a solution in construction domain whereby if you know about NLP, as you must have known about NLP, but NLP in construction areas is very very less. So there is a lot of gap there. If any AI researcher wants to work in that area, construction area is the way to go. So we were working on a construction solution. So in that solution, there was lot of problems. So those problems were not even addressed in the research community. The reason why, construction doesn't has a lot of data set. You have to create data set yourself, because they would never give you their data. And why they would not give you? Because their projects are of billions of dollars, and their clients are very big and hefty people with you can say deep pockets. So they don't want anyone else to actually approach their thing. So what I feel in that aspect, if we can go in that direction, that direction is also very unique. But obviously, when we talk about academia, so always they would first come up with what how many papers can we publish out of this. So if we can change this paradigm, then I would suggest, I would see that the linkages would be formed and the output would be given. This is what I see when we talk about industry. What do you think?
Yeah, certainly you are probably in a better position
Yeah.
to comment on it than myself. But uh, what I would add is that there are some fundamental issues that probably hinder the
Hmm.
process of research being translated into some commercial product, or the engagement between industry and academia.
Hmm.
You already pointed out some of them. Um, Obviously, I think the academics, they have a lot on their plate, And then in order to commercialize something, or probably to take the research outcome into industry, sell them and convince someone that this is going to work, obviously this needs time, this needs resources. I'm not ruling out the possibility that it's not possible and there couldn't be more engagement. Of course there can be, and I believe where I am sitting, there is a lot of work going on to make sort of translate research into a direct
Commercial
benefit
product.
for the society.
Yeah.
But this is again a topic that can be discussed for longer.
Yeah.
But obviously I think it's a gradual path that
Yeah.
also it varies from country to country. I believe that in countries like US, or I heard in Switzerland, that gap has been reduced a lot already.
Yeah,
And
in
perhaps in
Singapore,
other countries.
in Singapore, since I worked there, in there also the gap has reduced. But again, the process, I mean, can be still be improved. In even in Singapore, there are a lot of work that has been done. But yes, that can be another topic. I mean, this topic is very huge. When we talk about industry is something that solve really challenging problem. But the thing is, those challenging problems should be solved by the academia, because these problems would take a lot of time for actually the industry to solve it. But if it has to be solved by us, this, I would say the faster way is the way where we don't go from the top bottom approach. We can go from the bottom up approach, whereby we can solve the problem and then go towards the other part of it, whereby research gap and all those aspects.
Yeah,
So
just to add
yeah,
one point to it.
yeah.
For this kind of in my one of my experience, of course we cannot generalize it. The industry, they did not have the idea about the problems, that what is the problem that the researchers can solve for them.
Yes.
And when we were doing the analysis, it was really hard for them to really understand what exactly researchers can do for them.
Yes.
So maybe it's not entirely on the shoulder of the
Yeah,
academics or researchers.
it's a
It's
double-edged
also
sword.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Actually, the problem is, yes, we deal with a lot of clients with the thing that you're talking about. They are generally laymen. So, just to give you an idea, I just posted on LinkedIn like 1 month ago, that is AI a black magic? So basically, 73% people say yes. So actually, that's the thing. When a client come to you, they generally say think that it can solve everything. So although it cannot solve, I mean, AI cannot solve everything. It cannot do what a human being can do. Yes, you can make it happen, but it would take a lot of effort to actually do that. So yeah,
I'm
that
not sure why would that sort of um, mindset exist, because AI essentially, it's the data. I believe that
yeah,
if you don't have the data, you can't do anything.
yeah,
The better the data, the more the data you have, and also the capacity that you have to analyze the data. I think
yeah,
that essentially comes down to what AI can do for you. If,
yeah.
like, for example, you mentioned about the construction domain, where there doesn't exist much of data, so I don't think AI can do anything. Yes, synthetic data you can create. Like, I have been working on projects where even tools like ChatGPT are used for creating synthetic data. That is possible, but again, you need data for AI to do the magic for you.
Let me conclude what we have discussed today. So basically, we can use AI tool in research, and there are many AI tools that we can use, but we have to be cautious about how to use it. If we rely 100% on the AI tool, then I think so it would be more worse than good. So basically, you have to stay under a certain limit while using those AI tool. You cannot 100%ly rely on that tool. And on the industrial part, we also discussed that obviously industry and academia linkage is there, but obviously industry has to also adopt to the things that academia would do, and also academia would also need to adopt things that industry wants it. And obviously when we are, I'm basically from both realms, so I know what both community thinks. So in this aspect I would always see, and a lot of people are working on it, that we can work on that certain things or certain frameworks whereby we both industry as well as the academia can help themselves. So thank you, Dr. Fahim, again for joining this podcast, and thank you for all the listener who has been watching this from the very beginning, and stay tuned for the next episode. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.